Hey, welcome to Living the Dream with MS, and happy Valentine's Day. I am still dealing with the tinnitus ear stuff, so my hearing is crap. So this will likely be another short and sweet one, and I am winging it. I've got 1,000 things in my head, and so I just decided to roll and see what comes out. One of the things that I'm going to talk about is I often talk about the magic plant, and I showed a demonstration on vaporization once, but there are many other ways to use it. And recently, I have started using a tincture. What is a tincture? A tincture is when they extract the THC and CBD, usually using alcohol or some other substance, and then it's created into an oil. And that oil can be ingested one of many ways. Many people, and it's how I've used it, is under the tongue. It soaks into the bloodstream that way. You have nothing going through your lungs, and it has different effects. And for me, it has some effects that are a little bit better, less psychoactive effects and more body effects. It helps relax my body. And gives me the effects I need while even being able to remain even sharper. So that's something that that I have recently started using and like quite a bit. It comes in a little glass bottle with a dropper. You can make your own. I have chosen not to go that route because I don't have the kitchen set up for that I'm willing to have around in front of my family and whatnot, and it's easier to just buy it at the dispensary. But do know that if you wanted to do the research, there's ample information out there on how to make it. Edibles are another thing, and that's probably, as these legalization discussions have come around, that's one of the biggest fear tactics, I guess, or concerns, is the edibles. And yes, edibles are very, very powerful. You have to know what you're doing. But guess what? Edibles have been around for a long time. People talking about pot brownies going back to the 60s and 70s. Like, that's an edible, dude. That's the way that is. So all the upheaval, especially in Massachusetts, when they were talking about recreational legalization, and, the kids are going to get their hands on edibles. Well, they can't legally. And so basically what that falls to is people being responsible adults, which is the same thing as alcohol, cigarettes, or anything else. So yes, people need to be responsible adults and not have things out and available where a child can get them. But beyond that, it's not any more dangerous than it was in the 60s. In fact, some would argue less dangerous because we now know much more about titration and what belongs in something to create the strength that we want. That being said, it is powerful for if you're using it medically. You need to know that you need to start small. I was sharing a funny story with somebody was sharing a funny story with me about some fudge and eating an entire thing of fudge, not realizing that they really only needed like one bite. So those are the kind of things that you have to start slow and you have to know what you're doing. So that's my piece on the magic plant and its many magical forms and how they help. I am going slowly insane with this ear thing. This is taking some fortitude to not crack on, and I've not always done great. I have lost my my mind a little bit a few times because of the challenges, but I'm making it through. I'm going to end with an anecdote or some information. Many times I get asked, whether it's through these videos or other things, where I get my strength, my ability to move forward. And I've had all kinds of answers depending on what I think of. But I was thinking the other day during the snowstorm that probably the best place is example. And in my life, I was just thinking about two men in particular that are that example. In July, my dad, Big Dave, will turn 63 years old. He still works full-time, more than full-time, more than 40 hours. I don't even know, 50 or 60 or 100, depending on who you ask. However, in those snowstorms, still gets in his truck in the morning and at night without being paid, just as a favor for those he loves and cares about, and plows driveways and sidewalks and other things to make sure that everybody's safe. And that's just something that he jumps in and does without anybody having to beg for it, certainly without anybody expecting to pay him for it, just because. He doesn't take vacation. He's the hardest worker I know. And so that's been a powerful example for me of how you're supposed to live your life. More recent years, although not that recent because I've known him for 22 years now, is my father-in-law, who in May will be 80 years old. And at 80 years old, still works with me and has instructed me, under threat of, I believe the term was a shot in the ass, that he will come and clear the stairs to the office because of mainly the video that I made about injuring my hip. Again, gonna be 80, still working, still giving rides to everybody who needs them. Never mind not having to be begged, but sometimes offering before the ask is even there. And doing things like that. Doing things like shoveling the stairs just so that I don't have to worry about it. So those two men's examples are one of the ways that I have the ability and the strength to plow forward, because although our life circumstances are very different, seeing that people have the ability to just put their head down, work hard, and get through things is the example that I've taken from them, and it's an example that I use in my everyday life. I've babbled on for a bit. This ended up being way longer than I planned, but that's okay. I'm going to keep living the dream with MS.